Life often unfolds as a dance, an intricate interplay of closeness and distance, connection and separation. When someone becomes distant or begins to ignore us, it can feel like a misstep in the rhythm we've grown accustomed to. Yet this distance is not inherently a rejection or an ending. It is a shift in the choreography of your shared experience, one that invites us to approach the situation with curiosity rather than fear. In every relationship, there exists an unspoken rhythm, a pulse that guides the flow of energy between two individuals. Sometimes this rhythm accelerates, drawing people closer, and at other times it slows, creating space. This ebb and flow are as natural as the tide. To resist the tide's retreat is to misunderstand its purpose. It is not withdrawing to punish, or to abandon it is simply following the course it must take. So too in relationships, distance can serve as a pause, an opportunity for growth, and a chance to rediscover the deeper truths that connect us all. When someone is distant, the immediate impulse is often to close the gap, to reach out and re-establish the connection. This desire stems from a place of fear, a fear of losing what we cherish. But just as you cannot force a flower to bloom before it is ready, you cannot compel another person to move in sync with you when their spirit requires a moment of stillness or solitude. Attempting to pull them closer may only strain the relationship, disrupting the delicate balance that underpins genuine connection. Instead, consider this: what if the distance is not an obstacle but an invitation? An invitation to pause, to reflect, and to honor the autonomy of both yourself and the other person. In the dance of connection, each step matters, but so does the space between them. Without moments of pause, the beauty of the movement cannot be fully appreciated. Distance, then, becomes a vital element of the relationship, offering clarity and perspective that might otherwise remain hidden. When someone steps away, it is not always about you. It might stem from their own struggles, fears, or needs. To interpret their distance as a personal slight is to project your insecurities onto their actions. Instead, let their space teach you something about yourself. What emotions does their distance stir in you? Is it anxiety, sadness, or frustration? These feelings are not enemies to be fought, but messengers to be understood. They reveal areas within you that may need healing or attention. This doesn't mean you should ignore the discomfort. Acknowledge it, sit with it, and allow it to guide you toward deeper self-awareness. In doing so, you may come to realize that your happiness and worth are not dependent on someone else's proximity. You are whole, even when others choose to take a step back. This realization doesn't diminish the importance of the relationship. Rather, it strengthens your ability to engage with it authentically, free from the weight of dependency. In honoring the distance, you also honor the connection. True connection does not demand constant closeness. It is resilient, enduring even when words are not exchanged or physical presence is absent. Like a strong but flexible bridge, it can withstand the weight of space and time because it is built on mutual respect and understanding. When you stop resisting the natural flow of the relationship, you may find that the connection deepens in ways you never anticipated. And so, the dance continues. There will be moments of closeness that fill your heart with joy and moments of distance that challenge you to grow. Both are essential to the beauty of the dance. When someone steps away, resist the urge to chase. Instead, stay present, grounded in your own rhythm, and trust that the dance will lead you where you need to go. Distance, after all, is not the end of connection, but a part of its ever-unfolding story. The space created by distance or silence is not empty, it is brimming with opportunities to grow, to understand, and to transform. When someone retreats, it stirs something within us, an ache, a pang of anxiety, perhaps even anger. These emotions are not to be feared or suppressed. Instead, they are signals pointing to places within ourselves that yearn for attention. A reactive mind sees these emotions as enemies, something to be overcome or avoided. A reflective mind views them as guides, gentle messengers that offer insight into our deepest truths. Reflection is not about finding fault, whether in yourself or the other person. It is about curiosity. Why does their distance affect you so deeply? What fears or insecurities does it awaken? Often the answers to these questions lie not in their actions, but in your own inner landscape. Perhaps their withdrawal reminds you of past wounds, of moments when you felt abandoned or unseen. By sitting with these realizations, you begin to disentangle your present experience from the shadows of the past. This process of reflection also allows for a broader perspective. When caught in reaction, we tend to see only through the narrow lens of our own feelings. We project meanings onto others' actions, often assuming malice or indifference where none exists. Reflection, however, opens the door to empathy. It invites us to consider the other person's perspective, their struggles, and their reasons for creating distance. Maybe their silence is not about you at all. Maybe it is about something they are wrestling with, something they cannot yet put into words. By stepping back and reflecting, we also give ourselves the gift of clarity. Reaction clouds judgment, leading to hasty decisions or words we later regret. Reflection, on the other hand, creates a space for intentionality. It allows us to respond rather than react, to choose our words and actions with care. In this space, we can decide whether to reach out, to give them time, or to focus on our own growth. Whatever choice we make, it is grounded in understanding rather than impulse. Reflection also requires self-compassion. It's easy to spiral into self-blame when someone withdraws, to assume that you are somehow unworthy of their attention or love. But reflection teaches us that our worth is not determined by others' actions. Their distance does not diminish your value. In fact, it is an opportunity to reaffirm your own sense of self. Who are you when no one is watching, when no one is immediately validating your existence? These are the moments that define your relationship with yourself. Choosing reflection over reaction is not a passive act. It is an active, conscious decision to engage with life from a place of inner strength and wisdom. It requires you to resist the pull of instant gratification, the need for immediate resolution. It is a practice, one that deepens with time and patience. You may stumble, you may feel the urge to lash out or to cling, but each time you choose reflection, you are reclaiming your power. In the end, reflection is a gift you give not only to yourself but to the relationship as well. It fosters understanding and creates a foundation for authentic connection. When you take the time to reflect, you honor both your own journey and the other person's. You allow space for the relationship to breathe, to evolve, and to find its true rhythm. Reaction might feel satisfying in the moment, but it is reflection that leads to lasting growth and transformation. Control is a concept that comforts us, an illusion that offers the promise of stability in a world that is inherently unpredictable. When someone becomes distant or ignores us, our immediate response is often to try to regain control, to fix the situation, or to manipulate the outcome to suit our desires. Yet this pursuit of control is a false refuge. It distracts us from the reality that no matter how much effort we exert, we cannot dictate the thoughts, feelings, or actions of another. Their distance is not something you can force into closeness, and their silence is not a puzzle you can solve by sheer will. The illusion of control arises from our deep-seated fear of uncertainty. When someone pulls away, it feels like a thread unraveling in the tapestry of our lives. We grasp at it, thinking that if we pull harder, we can weave it back into place. But this grasping only tightens the knot, creating tension where there could be ease. The harder we try to control the narrative, the more it slips away, like sand through clenched fingers. Control, in this sense, becomes a form of resistance, a refusal to accept what is. In relationships, the need for control often masks deeper insecurities. We fear rejection, abandonment, or loss, so we attempt to manage the behavior of others to protect ourselves from pain. We might send repeated messages, demand explanations, or try to orchestrate situations that bring them back to us. These actions may provide a temporary sense of relief, but they do not address the root of the discomfort. Instead, they perpetuate a cycle of dependence on external validation, leaving us more vulnerable when our efforts inevitably fall short. Letting go of the illusion of control does not mean giving up on relationships or ignoring the dynamics that matter to you. It means recognizing the boundaries of your influence. You cannot control whether someone chooses to engage with you, but you can control how you respond to their distance. You can choose to respect their autonomy, to honor their need for space, and to focus on maintaining your own sense of balance. This shift in perspective is not an act of surrender, but an act of empowerment. It allows you to redirect your energy toward what you can change: your thoughts, actions, and well-being. At its core, the need for control stems from a misunderstanding of connection. We often equate closeness with control, believing that if we can steer the relationship, we can ensure its stability. But true connection cannot be forced or micromanaged. It arises naturally when both individuals feel free to show up as they are, without the pressure of expectations or demands. Letting go of control creates space for authenticity, for relationships to unfold in their own time and in their own way. Embracing this truth requires trust, not just in the other person, but in life itself. Trust that if the connection is meant to endure, it will find its way back to you. Trust that if it does not, it is making room for something that aligns more closely with your path. Trust, too, in your ability to navigate whatever comes next, even if it is not what you hoped for. This trust is not blind optimism, it is a deep acknowledgement of the fluid nature of life and relationships. When you release the need to control, you open yourself to a state of flow. You begin to see that every experience, even one of distance or silence, has its place in your journey. Instead of resisting the current, you learn to navigate it with grace, allowing it to guide you toward growth and self-discovery. This does not mean you will not feel pain or longing; those emotions are natural. But they will no longer define your actions or hold you hostage to the illusion that you can change what is beyond your reach. In letting go, you gain freedom, the freedom to focus on your own growth, to nurture your own peace, and to trust the wisdom of life's unfolding. Control was never yours to begin with, and in releasing it, you step into a deeper truth that life is not something to be mastered, but something to be experienced. When someone distances themselves or ignores you, it often feels like an external problem, a situation to analyze, fix, or lament. Yet relationships are not one-way streets, they are mirrors, reflecting back to us aspects of ourselves that we may not always recognize. The distance you perceive in another person often reveals something about your inner world, a truth or lesson waiting to be uncovered. Understanding this mirror is not about blame or fault, but about self-discovery and growth. In the stillness of another's withdrawal, emotions stir within you. Perhaps it is frustration, sadness, or a gnawing sense of rejection. These feelings are powerful, but they are not about the other person's actions alone. They are also about your interpretations, your history, and your inner narratives. When you look into the mirror of this experience, you begin to see the ways in which your own beliefs and wounds shape your responses. For instance, if their distance makes you feel unworthy, it may be a sign of a deeper insecurity that has existed long before this moment. Their actions did not create this feeling, they simply illuminated it. This is the power of relationships. They act as a reflective surface, showing us parts of ourselves we might otherwise avoid. By recognizing this reflection, you can begin to explore the roots of your emotions rather than reacting solely to the surface situation. Understanding the mirror does not mean excusing harmful behavior or denying the reality of another person's choices. It means acknowledging that their actions, while impactful, are not the sole determinants of your emotional experience. Their distance might be a product of their own struggles, fears, or needs, things that have little to do with you. But the way you interpret and internalize their actions is deeply personal and speaks to your own journey. The mirror invites you to look inward, to ask, why does this affect me so deeply? What is it bringing to light within me? This self-reflection requires courage. It's far easier to place the blame entirely on the other person, to label them as careless or indifferent. But doing so keeps you locked in a reactive cycle, where your sense of peace and worth remains tethered to external validation. By stepping back and examining what the situation is mirroring about your own patterns, you take back your power. You shift from being a passive participant to an active seeker of understanding. The mirror also teaches us about projection. Sometimes the qualities we perceive in others are actually reflections of our own inner state. If we feel ignored, it might point to areas where we've ignored ourselves, our needs, our boundaries, or our desires. If we sense rejection, it might highlight the ways we've rejected parts of ourselves we deem unworthy. The people in our lives become unwitting participants in this dynamic, reflecting back to us the work we need to do within. This is not to say that every distant or ignoring person is a perfect reflection of you. People have their own complexities and motivations. But the mirror offers an opportunity to grow, regardless of their intentions. It allows you to see where your fears and insecurities have taken root, and it challenges you to address them not by changing the other person, but by changing your relationship with yourself. In understanding the mirror, compassion becomes essential compassion for yourself and for the other person. Instead of approaching the situation with anger or desperation, you can approach it with curiosity and kindness. What might they be mirroring about your inner world? What might they be navigating in their own? Compassion softens the edges of pain and opens the door to healing, both within and between you. Ultimately, the mirror is not about judgment, it is about awareness. When you see yourself clearly in the reflection, you gain the ability to choose your responses consciously. You stop chasing the illusion of fixing the external and start nurturing the internal. This shift is profound because it frees you from the cycles of reactivity and dependency, allowing you to grow into a more whole, self-aware version of yourself. The person creating distance may never return, or they might. But that is secondary to the lesson of the mirror that every interaction, even the painful ones, holds a key to deeper understanding. By embracing what the mirror reveals, you turn moments of discomfort into opportunities for transformation, and you step closer to the authentic peace that comes from knowing yourself fully. Life unfolds like a river, constantly moving, bending, and shifting in ways that often defy our expectations. Relationships, too, have their own currents, moments of closeness followed by moments of distance. This natural flow is neither good nor bad, it simply is. Yet when someone grows distant or begins to ignore us, it can feel like we're swimming against the current, fighting to keep the connection alive. But to resist the flow is to miss its wisdom. It is in learning to trust and navigate this natural rhythm that we find peace and clarity. Connection is not a static state, it is dynamic, ever-changing. Just as the seasons shift without our permission, relationships evolve in their own time. Closeness may come and go like waves on a shore. At times, the connection feels effortless, as if the tide is carrying you together. Other times, it feels as though the waters are pulling you apart. These ebbs and flows are not signs of failure or rejection, they are an integral part of the journey. When someone becomes distant, the temptation is often to push against the current, to reach out repeatedly, or to demand explanations. This reaction comes from a place of fear, the fear of losing something precious. But fighting the natural flow only creates turbulence. It strains the relationship and leaves us feeling exhausted and unfulfilled. Instead of forcing the connection, what if we allowed ourselves to pause and observe? To honor the rhythm of the relationship without imposing our own timeline. This requires a shift in perspective. Distance does not necessarily mean disconnection. Sometimes, space is what allows a relationship to breathe and grow. Think of it like planting a seed. You cannot constantly dig it up to check its progress without disrupting its growth. In the same way, relationships need moments of stillness to find their depth and resilience. Trusting the natural flow means understanding that the current will carry you where you need to go, even if it's not where you expected. Allowing the natural flow also means embracing uncertainty. Relationships, like rivers, do not follow straight paths. They meander, encountering obstacles, changing course, and finding new directions. Trying to control this flow, dictating how someone should feel or behave, only leads to frustration. The river does not ask where it should go, it simply moves, finding its way with grace and persistence. By mirroring this acceptance, we release the need to grasp at certainty and instead learn to navigate the present moment with openness. This does not mean passively accepting all circumstances. Trusting the flow does not mean ignoring your needs or silencing your feelings. It means engaging with the relationship in a way that respects both your truth and the other person's autonomy. If the flow carries you apart, it is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reminder that relationships, like all things in life, are impermanent and subject to change. Clinging to what once was or forcing what is not ready only deepens the pain. In trusting the natural flow, you create space for authenticity. When you stop trying to control the current, you allow the relationship to unfold as it is meant to. This can lead to surprising depths of connection, or it might lead to an ending that clears the way for new beginnings. Either way, the flow holds wisdom. It teaches you patience, acceptance, and the strength to remain anchored in your own sense of self. There is a profound freedom in letting go of the need to swim against the current. It frees you to experience relationships without the weight of constant expectation. It allows you to approach others with curiosity rather than demands. It invites you to embrace both the joy of closeness and the lessons of distance. This freedom does not eliminate pain or longing, but it transforms how you carry them. You stop seeing distance as a loss and start seeing it as part of the river's natural course. The natural flow is not something you control, it is something you trust. When you align yourself with this flow, you find that even moments of separation have their purpose. They teach you to let go, to hold space, and to honor the unique rhythms of each relationship. In this way, the river of life becomes not a challenge to conquer, but a journey to experience. Trust the flow, and it will carry you exactly where you need to be. In relationships, it's easy to lose sight of yourself, especially when someone becomes distant or starts ignoring you. The immediate reaction is often to question your worth, wondering if you've done something wrong, if you're not enough, or if you somehow fail to hold their attention. But these thoughts are not reflections of reality, they are echoes of fear and insecurity. To base your value on someone else's actions is to hand over the keys to your sense of self. True worth is not something another person grants or takes away, it is something you must recognize and embrace within yourself. Valuing yourself begins with understanding that your worth is inherent, not conditional. You are not less deserving of love or respect because someone has pulled away. Their actions are a reflection of their journey, not a verdict on your value. It's tempting to tie your self-esteem to how others treat you, but this is a fragile foundation. People's behaviors are influenced by countless factors: stress, personal struggles, or simply their own evolving feelings. None of these diminish who you are. When you value yourself, you shift your focus inward. Instead of seeking validation externally, you cultivate a sense of self-worth that is independent of others' approval. This doesn't mean isolating yourself or pretending that relationships don't matter. It means anchoring your sense of identity in something unshakable. You are whole and complete as you are, not because someone acknowledges it, but because it is your birthright. Your value is not up for negotiation. Valuing yourself also means setting boundaries. It's natural to want to reach out when someone distances themselves to bridge the gap and restore the connection. But chasing after someone who is pulling away often comes at the expense of your dignity and peace of mind. Respecting their space while honoring your own needs is a powerful act of self-respect. You are not here to beg for attention or force someone to stay. You are here to show up authentically and allow relationships to align naturally. This self-respect extends to how you treat yourself during times of uncertainty. It's easy to fall into patterns of self-criticism, replaying moments in your mind and searching for what you might have done wrong. But valuing yourself means speaking to yourself with kindness and compassion. Remind yourself that it's okay to feel hurt, confused, or even angry. These emotions do not make you weak, they make you human. Acknowledge them without letting them define you. The way you see yourself also shapes the way others see you. When you hold yourself in high regard, it sets the tone for how others interact with you. If you constantly seek validation or settle for less than you deserve, it signals that you don't value yourself. But when you carry yourself with confidence, prioritize your well-being, and stand firm in your boundaries, you invite relationships that reflect that same respect and care. Valuing yourself is not a one-time realization, it is a daily practice. It's in the choices you make, choosing to walk away from situations that harm you, choosing to invest in your growth, choosing to prioritize your happiness. It's in how you talk to yourself when things don't go as planned, how you celebrate your wins, no matter how small, and how you forgive yourself for the moments you stumble. This practice of self-value transforms the way you experience relationships. Instead of clinging to others out of fear, you approach connections with a sense of abundance. You know that your worth does not depend on whether someone stays or goes. This doesn't mean you won't feel pain if a relationship ends or struggles arise. It means you'll face those moments with a deeper sense of resilience, knowing that your foundation remains intact. Valuing yourself is the greatest gift you can give to both yourself and your relationships. Thanks for watching.